convinced initially the police officer that this naked woman screaming was in fact enjoying being with him.
And when she became 17, both babies now born, Garrido's sexual interest was over, but not his hold on her.
Did you think of him as father?
Never. Father to the kids. No,
Dictator?
just somebody who always knew what to do. I depended on him for everything.
While he kept hammering her, saying that the outside world would destroy her and the girls. And as we talk more back inside, look at her face. We think you can almost see something haunting her as she looks back at who she was then.
Did you think about taking those two girls and running?
I'm sure I did, but it wasn't something I felt I could do.
Because?
The situation felt like it wasn't an option. I don't know how else to explain it. There was no leaving.
What would it have taken for you to believe you could leave?
I've asked myself that question many times. The mind manipulation, plus the physical abuse I suffered in the beginning. There was no leaving. Maybe if one of the girls were being hurt.
And everyone who thinks that maternal impulse would just scoop them up to run doesn't...
They were safe. I was being told that the outside world was dangerous. I couldn't
ironically enough, filled with rapists and
yes,
pedophiles.
And pedophiles. I couldn't protect them out there. It's like what I knew was safe, the unknown that was out there was terrifying, especially when thinking about the girls.
Garrido had built fences around her so much higher than the ones we can see. She writes about her fear of the outside world. How could she live there or survive?
He helped her to believe he was the only person that she could be safe with. She had parole officers coming to the house.
Right now I'm searching the house.
And at some point, it's logical to assume you would say, does anybody even know that I'm here or even care that I'm here?
And even when she's in her 20s, Garrido has started a printing business and she's designing cards and invitations on a computer with internet. Her mother is on her mind, but her hands are still unable to move.
He said that the computer keeps track of all that stuff and he could see that. A couple of clicks.
A couple of clicks. But you never...
I never did it. Something always held me back. It was like I still had those handcuffs on.
Do you think you'll ever understand it? Why you didn't leave?
I don't think so.
In fact, after she is found, one of her first questions will be, is he crazy or am I? But the real miracle is that even as Jaycee Dugard was drowning in the undertow of Philip Garrida's paranoia and control, she managed to cling so fiercely to her fading memories of mother, love, and hope.
She kept her hope. I don't know how she did that. How did I keep my hope? How did she keep her hope?
And look again at her secret journals, where she makes a little list of dreams for the future.
First thing on the list.
See my mom.
See my mom.
And?
Ride in a hot air balloon.
Coming up, the campus cops who will do what countless others fail to do, take action and save a family.
It seems impossible to common sense.
And all that time, for 18 years, a mother struggling to keep her hope alive.
I remember looking up at the moon, and then I said, okay, Jace, where are you? Where the hell are you?
And coming up now, the two women, the campus cops, who will finally do what a bureaucracy never did, save Jaycee Dugard.
We knew that he was way out there. They weren't giving me any kind of sign that they were in trouble, but yet I felt that they were.
After all those years, a reunion.
And I remember
you shouting,
oh yeah.
And Jaycee Dugard's life today. What does she see when she looks at her daughters? And what she teaches us about laughter and living in hope every single day. And from that little list she made once in her backyard prison, a dream fulfilled, as she soars toward the sky. At UC Berkeley, Philip Garrido is posting flyers about his wild religious beliefs all around the campus. With him, 2 young women who seem withdrawn, not happy. And after 18 years of law enforcement carelessness, ineptitude, and inertia, it would be 2 campus police officers, Lisa Campbell and Allie Jacobs, who say they simply didn't like what they saw.
One of the main things with me was the concern for the girls from a mother's standpoint. They weren't giving me any kind of sign that they were in trouble, but yet I felt that they were.
We knew that he was way out there, but we just didn't know what. We had no way of envisioning that it would be as big as it was.
The 2 women decide to act. They're not simply going to walk away. They engage Garrido in conversation, pretending to be interested in his delusional rants, and as soon as they can, run to check who he is and discover in horror he is a sex offender.
And I'm thinking, he's on parole, he's huge, and he's got this record, this violent record. This is not going to be good.
And because of mother's instinct, female intuition, and cops just plain doing their job, a young girl's world is about to change.
Just how incredible it is that they spoke up about something they thought was wrong. Even if they would have been wrong, they still spoke up. And they saved us. Something I couldn't do for myself.
By this time, August 2009, Jaycee Dugard had long since stopped looking at the moon as she used to do with her mother. It was just too painful. But mysteriously, this night,
for some reason, I looked up and the moon was just bright and beautiful.
And a few hours away, someone who was also grown 18 years older. 18 years of searching, suffering, struggling to hold on to hope. Jaycee Dugard's mother also looks up.
I remember looking up at the moon, and then I said, okay, Jace, where are you? Where the hell are you?
And all because of those 2 campus cops. On August 26, 2009, parole officers finally summoned Philip Garrido to come in. His family comes with him. Authorities start questioning the terrified woman in their office. But there's a problem. She is still locked in, sticking to the story he trained her to say, saying he's her protector, that she's there by choice. And her name, she insists, is Alyssa. Still, the little girl who last saw her name in Eclipse's journal, only to have it torn out. She has never said it out loud in 18 years.
I couldn't say it.
And only when a kind police officer takes her aside and asks her once more, "Who are you? What is your name?" Here from her book is what happens next. She asked for my name again. I said I couldn't say it.
I said, I'm not trying to be difficult. I haven't said it in such a long time.
I told her I would write it down, and that's what I did. You are looking at the piece of paper on which Jaycee Dugard, shakily, finally, wrote the letters of her name. Jaycee Lee Dugard. It was, she says, like breaking an evil spell.
Your name.
My name. And it was like a piece of me came back.
And the flame that had been extinguished immediately reignites.
You turn it back on and you can see things that you didn't see, that they were there, but you don't know they're there. And suddenly they are. They're like, you can see your mom, and I'm like, I can see my mom? It was like a question to them, you know, I can?
You're at the office, the phone rings.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
And then they put her on the phone, and that's when I believed them. Running down the hall screaming, my baby's home. She's back.
I remember you shouting.
Oh, yeah.
And I was crying, you know, when you're crying and you can't speak. I just said, come quick. I remember saying, come quick.
And I remember telling you, I'm coming, baby, I'm coming.
And the first moment they are both in the same room,
I knew it was her the minute I saw her, and all I wanted to do was hug you and hold you. Never let you go.
When night falls, they're in a motel, but no one can sleep.
I woke the girls up and I just said, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm like, I can't wait anymore. I don't care if they're sleeping. And so I ran down the hall. I forgot the motel key. So I locked myself out of the room. The girls are following me. And I walked in. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
And stunningly, even as she's now had 2 years to look back at all that stolen time, she insists life is too short for a moment of bitterness or rage. The last time she saw Garrido was at that parole office. He first winked at her, and later, with dead eyes, said get a lawyer.
I don't feel like I have this rage inside of me that's building.
Why not? How can you not?
I refuse to let him have that. He can't have me.
You mean if you felt rage, it would mean he had
won?
I think I have enough hate in my heart for the both of us. I hate that he took her life away.
And that makes me sad.
I'm sorry, baby. I hate that he stole her from me. He ripped out a piece of my heart. And, he stole my baby. He stole your childhood, he stole your adolescence, he stole high school proms and pictures and memories and...
But he didn't get all of me.
No.
Still to come, Jaycee Dugard victory, daughters, her plans for the future, and the things we can all learn from how she healed. And when we come back...
They hear a report that their kids living in a backyard, and they're not curious at all. It seems impossible to common sense.
Chris Cuomo takes up a mother's challenge to track down those who let this happen and to see if anything has changed.
And I'm here now with Chris Cuomo, who decided to track down some of the people who could have protected Jaycee Dugard and then saved her, but didn't.
They didn't. They absolutely failed, Diane. So what we decided to do was take our investigative team and find the people involved and hold them accountable. We called and wrote them, and when they wouldn't talk to us, we found them. And along the way, we found video, too, that's never been seen. Parole visits that were epic failures. Scenes that will chill you to the bone. And we're not going away. We will stay on these issues. Philip and Nancy Garrido are preparing to make a home movie that will apparently capture Garrido playing a song on his guitar. But the guitar playing is just a ruse. Look at where they are. Behind them is a playground. The Garridos are there to get shots of young children to feed Philip Garrido's sick appetites. You got me real good?
Yes, I can see you really good.
As you learned earlier, this is going on despite the fact that Philip Garrido is supposedly under the watchful eye of federal parole officers for his history of sexual violence. Our investigation reveals that this is a metaphor for decades of neglect by state and federal parole officials, basically allowing Philip Garrido to do as he pleased, including taking Jaycee Dugard prisoner. Pain felt most sharply by the one person who never lost sight of the situation, Jaycee's mom.
How could anybody with a heart or a conscience or a soul, for that matter, take an innocent child away from its mother?
This is the first time Terry Probin's searing words have been heard outside court. The pain and outrage she spoke directly to the Garridos.
But my battle against abduction has just begun, and I plan to win.
A mother who demands change.
I'm appalled. I'm disgusted, and something needs to change.
How much of the outrage goes to fixing this situation?
I think that's what it is. I think that's what fuels the fire, the outrage that I have, the anger that I have.
Garrido's terrifying career of sexual crimes begins in April 1972. Vietnam is raging. Students are protesting at UC Berkeley. And just 40 miles away in the small town of Antioch, 21-year-old Philip Garrido is waging a war of his own against young women, charged with drugging a 14-year-old girl and repeatedly raping her. The case is dropped after the victim refuses to testify, leaving Garrido free to strike again. And he does.
I just started screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God. That's him. That's the guy who kidnapped me."
News of Garrido's 2009 arrest brought back a flood of dark memories for Katie Calloway Hall. In November of 1976, Katie, then 25 years old, made the terrible mistake of giving a lift to Garrido outside South Lake Tahoe, California.
What I saw was a very tall, slender, normal-looking white male. He didn't look like what I thought a rapist would look like, obviously.
She was horribly wrong. Garrido hogtied and handcuffed Katie and drove her over 60 miles to Reno, Nevada, to a shed at this storage facility, where she says he repeatedly raped her over an 8-hour period.
He had just kind of a faraway look in his eyes. He looked at me like I was an object.
Miraculously, Katie was saved when a police officer on patrol happened to notice a broken lock on the shed and went inside to investigate. Garrido was soon sentenced to 50 years in federal prison for kidnapping and 5 years to life in Nevada for rape. Then came the first in a line of system failures. After serving just 11 of his 50-year sentence, Garrido is released after 2 parole examiners interview him for reportedly just 35 minutes. But Garrido wasn't a free man yet. He must serve his rape sentence in Nevada. But just 8 months later, a second failure. A Nevada parole board also decides to let Garrido out of prison. The reason? Not contributing to be a menace to the health, safety, and morals of society. These bizarre decisions were made decades ago. Our phone calls lead to dead ends or refusals to comment. So we followed the trail to State Prison Warden Brenda Burns, who signed off on Garrido's release. We found her in retirement, watering her lawn, and with little interest in the dreadful mistakes of the past.
We want to know why you released Philip Garrido so early from prison.
What the parole board does, they're the ones that release them, or their sentence term is finished, and that's what the situation is.
Were you surprised when you heard that he kidnapped Jaycee Dugard?
You know, I'm never surprised with the human nature. Okay?
August 1988. Garrido walks out of prison a free man, but he's now supposedly under intense federal supervision as a high-risk offender. Parole is supposed to be release conditioned on regular check-ins at home and the parole office. In May of 1991, just 1 month before Garrido kidnapped Jaycee Dugard, federal officials actually toured his house in Antioch, discovering the hidden backyard with structures like this, eerily similar to the shed where he raped Katie, yet no alarms went off. Over the next 11 years, there would be numerous visits to Garrido's home, and according to his parole file, officers were often disturbed by his behavior. One wrote, he displayed an attitude of complete compliance that did not seem honest. It was almost as if he was putting on an act. Another wrote, need to keep close watch. Potential danger to the community is high. But despite these concerns, parole officers remain oblivious to the fact that Jaycee and her 2 daughters are living in Garrido's backyard in that same shed. To the former Inspector General of California who investigated what went wrong with Garrido's parole, this is outrageous.
A federal parole agent had not only been in the backyard, but had been inside what Garrido was calling a soundstage or a soundproof room for recording. So they knew it was there, so the federal government knew.
Then, in March 1999, another major failure. After just 11 years of supervision, federal probation officials again give Garrido a huge break, cutting short his parole for, of all things, good behavior. In this letter, senior U.S. probation officer Mark Mesner thanks Garrido for his cooperation over this period of supervision and hopes that he will continue to do well. Mr. Mesner? We pay Mesner a visit to find out why Garrido's federal supervision was cut short, given his violent and unstable background.
Mr. Mesner, we just want to ask you a question.
Mesner drives off without answering our questions. But there's no way to avoid the serious concerns raised about his office's botched handling of Garrido. A confidential federal investigation into the Garrido case released just last week concluded Garrido's federal probation office did not follow commonly accepted supervision practices and had failed to adequately supervise Philip Garrido. Perhaps most chilling is this. One may fairly question whether Garrido could have been deterred from the horrendous acts attributed to him had his federal supervision been conducted properly. The big question is, what lessons have been learned from the Garrido case? We sent letters to the head of the U.S. Parole Commission, the U.S. Attorney General, the Congressional Judiciary Committee, all asking what steps have been taken to prevent a similar tragedy in the future. The only one to respond was Representative Lamar Smith, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, who fired off a letter to the people in charge of probation demanding to know how they'll stop predators like Garrido from continuing their criminal behavior while going undetected by federal probation officers.
They call you?
No.
They say sorry?
No.
They say we figured it out, doing it differently next time.
No, but I need change and I need something to be different.
And this video will open eyes about how much change is needed. Come inside Garrido's home during an actual visit with a California parole official.
Right now I'm searching the house.
You'll see just how close officials got to discovering Garrido's secret.
I don't understand. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do.
I know it.
When we come back, we get answers to why authorities failed to rescue Jaycee Dugard.
Okay, this room here.
We're going to take you step by step through video California parole officials do not want you to see. Philip Garrido, bare-chested and brazen, leading an officer as he checks out Garrido's house. The officer's face was blurred by authorities to protect the identity of one of the many who failed to see what was right in front of them.
Okay, why is this door locked? Can you move that out and open the door?
The video is being shot by Garrido's wife, Nancy, who is helping her husband manipulate the visiting officer.
What does a parole agent do for his parolee?
Ma'am, you can come in office and we'll discuss that.
The other
right,
day,
at an appropriate time.
The other
right
guy,
now I'm doing a search. If you stay in this front room and I don't have to place you in restraints, because right now I'm searching the house.
Tough talk, but watch as the officer is distracted by the Garridos chattering about doing nothing wrong and appears to follow the path Garrido lays out.
I don't understand. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do.
I know it.
If you got any further questions, come into the office.
We will
I'll be in
come.
there between 8 and 5. All right, and both of you guys can come in.
Oh, he's an arrogant little guy, isn't he?
The officer seems to want to escape the pestering and leaves. If he had just walked into the backyard, he could have found Jaycee and her two helpless children. Instead, the Garridos find new confidence that they can evade authorities whenever they want.
When you look at 18 years of this system that's supposed to be in this business of watching people like this, what are your thoughts on it?
I think a lot of mistakes were made. I think Jace could have been home a lot sooner had somebody cared enough and slowed down to look at what was really going on.
Bottom line, at every level, the people who were supposed to watch Garrido failed. Our investigation reveals that almost no one wants to answer for the fact that officials either didn't know, didn't care, or didn't act to stop Philip Garrido and his wife Nancy. Jaycee and her kids weren't hidden in some remote hideout. They were right behind that fence in that backyard. Maybe it's not so easily visible, but neighbors in 2006 said there were kids living in that backyard, and nothing happened. And probation officers had 60 home visits, but never discovered what was right behind that fence.
to trained law enforcement officers. It should have been evident that something was going on out behind the house.
David Shaw, the former California Inspector General, prepared a scathing 115-page report detailing a litany of failures by state parole officials. Top of the list, all the visits with Garrido by officials. Each yellow box marks a visit to Garrido's house. Each one a missed opportunity. Parole officials never interviewed Garrido's neighbors, who had often spotted Jaycee and her 2 daughters. Agents also never questioned why there was a network of utility wires connecting the house to the backyard complex. Garrido was fitted for a GPS device in April 2008, tracking all movements. Each red dot marks his location and time. Look at how much time he was spending in the part of the backyard they never searched. Worst of all, says Shaw, Garrido often explained away reports and sightings of the children in his home by saying they were his brother's children.
We called his brother and spoke to his brother, and the brother didn't have any children.
But one phone call, hello, brother of crazy Philip Garrido. Do you have kids? No? Thank you very much. Have a good day. Hang up the phone, go and arrest Philip Garrido and find out where the kids are.
Right. We thought that an agent could have dug just a little bit deeper and found out that those weren't his brother's children, and if not, then who do they belong to?
As you heard earlier, over the years, Garrido apparently descended into madness with wild ideas about hearing angels. He even developed a device to channel God's voice. Yet, he was able to dupe trained mental health experts. After a 1996 evaluation, one therapist wrote, "I do not feel he is a danger to the community." A year later, after another evaluation, his psychiatrist stated, "His prognosis is excellent. I do not suspect he will ever be at risk for violence." Others, like Tim Allen, a contractor who bought business cards from Garrido, found the signs of his mental instability obvious.
Yeah, he would come in here and he was just rambling. I would tell the girls, hey, when you see Philip come in, tell him I'm not here.
November 2006, perhaps the most egregious failure of all. A neighbor calls 911 and complains children are living in tents in Garrido's backyard. The caller also describes Garrido as psychotic with a sexual addiction. This time, it's not parole officers, but a sheriff's deputy who shows up at Garrido's house. But after a brief chat, the deputy turns and leaves, never even bothering to check out the backyard, despite the neighbor's complaint. We asked then Sheriff Warren Roop what went wrong.
They hear a report that there are kids living in a backyard, and they're not curious at all.
Yes.
That's the whole reason he's there, is to look for kids in the backyard.
This comes back to, human flaw, pilot error. I am of the opinion that he should have had the professional curiosity to push beyond just a conversation on the front porch.
But how did he explain? You talked to this person, right?
I did not talk to this person, no.
As the sheriff, you never talked to your deputy about this?
I did not talk to this person.
Where was your professional curiosity, Sheriff? When you knew that this was your deputy, why didn't you say, I want to talk to this guy. I want to find out what was going on in his head that he didn't think to go into the backyard?
Those questions were asked. I mean, the fact that I did not personally talk to him is not, nor should not be seen as a lack of interest or a lack of curiosity.
But in fact, it is symptomatic of the neglect that contributed to Jaycee Dugard's 18-year nightmare. Stay with us. In no small irony, the officers who helped capture Philip Garrido had nothing to do with his probation. Remember, it was two suspicious UC Berkeley campus officers who checked up on Garrido after seeing him with his two daughters, and that led to his arrest and Jaycee's rescue.
All of the forces that came together worked together for the good, and the result was that we found Jaycee 18 years later.
Most importantly on that day was a curiosity that was uncommon in the case of Philip Garrido.
I think that it comes down to, having that woman's intuition, mother's intuition, work experience, life experience, being in the right place at the right time and having all those things is what, made this a happy ending.
Today we are joined by our...
Incredibly, after the arrest, California parole officials held a press conference to give themselves credit for cracking the case.
Very proud today to report the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's Parole Division for their work in solving the 18-year-old mystery of the disappearance of Jaycee Lee Dugard.
These officials declined requests to sit in the chair and answer our questions. However, the former Inspector General's report painted a very different picture of their actions. An abject failure that demanded not celebration, but major reform in California's parole system.
People have described the Jaycee Dugard case for the state system as the 9/11 of Homeland Security, that this was the big thing that we should have seen coming, and now everything must change. Fair analysis?
I think it's a decent analogy. Clearly, it woke everyone up in the system that something like this could go on with an offender who I think largely we had ignored in law enforcement.
In the wake of the Dugard case, California says changes have been made in line with Shaw's report, such as criminal background information being available to all law enforcement and specific training for how to check thoroughly on all sex offenders. The state also paid $20 million to the Dugard family to settle a claim that it had failed to properly supervise Garrido. But money is not what the Dugards want.
What matters more? What can't you put a price on?
The 18 years that I lost with her, the crap she went through, nobody can put a price on that. It's not good enough that the Garridos are behind bars and will never see the light of day again. It's not good enough to tell me that change is coming. The battle's just begun.
And Terry Probin is just the woman to take on this fight. Diane, she says she's going to do just that.
Which brings us to the family today. And here is what is coming up when we come back.
Jaycee's victory, her future, her daughters, and the lessons for all of us every day.
You excited? Yeah.
Jaycee Dugard says it is possible to redeem 18 years of stolen life and return from a chamber of horrors for body and mind. 2 years after her life resumed, she says she wants to tell us something important she knows. It is better to laugh and cry than only cry. As we said, she loves that it was her little sister, Shayna, now 21, who had to teach her how to drive at the age of 29.
You drive?
I do drive. I drive very safely. I go to park and I get out. I'm like, oh God, I did really good. And my mom's like, but look where you parked. And I was like, taking 2 spaces.
She even makes a wry joke about her impossibly young skin, saying, how about years of no sun?
Yeah, yeah. It's how to preserve yourself. That's the kind of humor I use to, get by.
Her therapist is Dr. Rebecca Bailey, who believes in talking about what happened in order to understand it, but who also teaches the best way to vanquish the past is to live with gratitude for the pleasures of the present day.
The peanut sauce.
Jaycee says, never forget what a gift it is to make dinner with your family, to have homemade food, and be outside. She cares for horses as part of her therapy. Mystical, tangible symbols of trust. Animals don't lie.
I mean, maybe I believe in a higher power, but I believe in nature and what we see around us as healing.
I'm confident that the community and the support that she has put around her since she has come out will carry her through whatever bumps in the road she hits. And I think she has a lot to teach all of us.
And she's begun to teach lessons through the foundation she created with some of the money the state gave her. The goal to help all members of families after trauma.
When something happens, they don't think about the whole family, like there's a sister and there's a mother and there's other components. It's not just the victim.
If you go online, you can find the foundation with Jaycee's symbol, the pine cone charm.
Diane?
Yeah?
I want to give you this, and I want you to wear it with happiness. I don't know what else to say.
You don't have to say a single word.
Good.
And the girl who loves words and metaphors says maybe a GED, even college. And I ask her about something she wrote in a journal when she was captive, something that ended with happily ever after.
I want to find love one day, the kind of love I read about. Still want that?
I don't know. I don't really think about it. I'm happy the way my life is now. I mean, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'll still be happy.
But it doesn't seem impossible after what you've been through.
No, it doesn't seem impossible.
I think that the prediction of the future is not in my job, but I will tell you that whether there's a man in her life or not, this woman will love fully in her life. He has certainly infused fear, and he has certainly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, there are things he has taken away from her that she will never have back or get back.
But she has her daughters whom she loves. She is very protective of their privacy and will say only that they're healthy, happy, wonderful students. In fact, they were so confident heading off to their first day at a public school. One of them said to her, "Mom, you're making me nervous." She says they will make their own decision about whether to read the book, but she has told them everything that happened. And she says they were there for their father's rants and his listening to the voices in the wall.
Their dad did strange things, and they knew it. They lived that way for so long that I don't really think it was that big of a shock to them because they knew their dad.
It's interesting to hear you call him their dad.
He is what he is.
When you see his expressions, is it startling in your daughters?
Surprisingly, I don't see it in them. I see my mom. I see me. I don't see him.
But she admits at the beginning she was worried that her own mom would have trouble with children fathered by that man.
I don't see him in my granddaughters. No, it is not there. They are who they are, and they are so beautiful. And I'm very proud to be a grandma. I love those girls with all my heart. You don't even have to ask that, baby. No. They're mine.
And where are the Garridos? Both pled guilty. Nancy Garrido was sentenced to 34 years. And Jaycee Dugard actually went to see her once to see if there were any answers to the question, what kind of human beings would do this to a child? She writes that Nancy cried, kept calling her Alyssa. Unmoved, Jaycee Dugard closed the door on her forever. And Philip Garrido, as we said, was sentenced to 431 years and is about to spend his life on the same prison row as Charles Manson, in isolation, in a tiny cell, with a window covered with bars.
If he is watching this, if he sees this, is there anything more either of you wants to say to him?
Can't steal anything else. Can't steal our love for each other. No. Couldn't take that away.
So in the battle between good and evil,
good wins.
Good wins.
Yep.
Before we left, Terry wanted to send a message to you about a morning more than 18 years ago when her little girl asked for a morning kiss.
I had been late to work 3 Monday mornings in a row, and I was focused on myself, trying to get myself out that door so I wouldn't be late for work. And I chose not to go in and kiss my girls goodbye that morning, wanting to be on time. And for 18 years, I kicked myself for not kissing that baby goodbye.
How could you have known, though? You can't beat yourself up about that.
No. But it's a good lesson. You know, take a minute for your kids. Do that extra thing that may be an inconvenience to you, but is important to them.
I am so lucky and blessed for all the wonderful things that I do have. Life is too short to think about all the things you don't have. I had my girls to give me strength and my cats to keep me warm at night, and perhaps deep inside, the dim hope of seeing my mom again. Even if it is just one thing or person you have to be thankful for, that is enough.
You excited?
Yeah.
Are you scared?
Yeah. And do you remember the journal Jaycee Dugard kept in that backyard prison? And in it, that list of impossible dreams? First on the list was see her mom. But right there, it was to fly free. Her final words to all of us: live each day to the fullest.